Amit Jain joins us now, co-founder with CarDekho. Amit, what's been your experience in the second-hand car market? When auto sales have gone down by 35%, some are saying 40, some are saying 50, let's say 35. What's happened to the second-hand car market? What's been the change in last 1 year?
I think we have seen a great traction on the used car market, where we have seen a phenomenal growth, almost 15 to 20% growth over the last year in terms of the number of sales that we saw. Our platform also has seen a historic growth. Over last 1.5 years, we have grown almost 100% on number of used car buyers who come on the platform and drop leads, right? As CarDekho is the largest vertical destination where people come to, search for their preferred used car, this boom has been astronomical, and I think it is probably due to two reasons. One is that, of course, as the new car prices inch up, this becomes more value for money. Second, with BS6 etc. that's gonna come, this is gonna also increase the price gap further, which is gonna support the used car growth. I think bigger point is the used car market will always be ahead of new car, only for one reason, that every car takes 2 or 3 turns in used, right? You sell it in the 4th year and then you sell it in 6th, 7th year, and then it makes one more sale, right? So the reality is that the used car market of this year will see 4 years back car and 7, 8 years cars back. And India was a growing market for all these years. So we expect that the market will grow further from here. And you should see the market almost between 7 to 8 million cars by 2023. It's growing at that pace right now. We are very excited. We play a very predominant role in this segment as CarDekho, and we support the whole dealer ecosystem and consumer ecosystem to trade these vehicles amongst each other. So it's been a great time, at least I can say, last year.
Can you broadly tell me which categories of the cars in the second-hand car market, what is the trend? I mean, is it towards sedan? Is it towards SUV? What are the trends within the second-hand car market?
So trends should be seen in two ways. One is the price segment and other is the body type. So look, almost 50-60% of people who buy a used car are actually first-time buyers. So they end up buying a hatchback. So the biggest demand is of hatchback. So 50% plus is 52-53% is actually hatchback as a market share. SUVs have been growing, at a healthy rate as we see year over year. There has been in this 1 year itself a 10-15% growth on demands for SUV. So dominant still is, I would say, hatchback. And if I were to dimension it on a price cut basis, or between 2 to 4 lakh is the highest demand. Almost 28% demand comes from 2 to 4 lakh segment on a platform, and rest is 0 to around a 24. The reality is under 5 lakh is 65% market basically. So most of the people who buy a used car are in this zone, and people are looking for probably more, either it's a first car, so they are trying to buy a car before they buy the new car, they can have an entry level hatchback, and then they migrate to their new car and get used to driving a car here. Second set of buyers are those who are aspirationally trying to buy a 10 lakh car at a 5 lakh rupee, right? The used car basically gives you that higher aspiration value. You can move the segment up, and that's the trend we are seeing. A lot of millennials are dropping leads on our SUV segment cars, and it is very clear that millennials are probably more keen to look value for money and the features that they can buy in the same money, and the segment shift that they can make with the money they carry. And that's the observation we are having.
Now let's understand the new scrapping norms and what happens to the shelf life of a second-hand car. In a state like Delhi, if you have a 10-year-old car, it's not going to get re-registered. Is the millennial really interested in buying a second-hand car when we know that the cost of financing a second-hand car is high? Second, the resale value will get lower, and third, Uber is available.
So the norms, that 10-year norms, scrapping norms, automatically get the cars to adjust in pricing. So that reflects in pricing. If you see, if it's an 8-year-old car, the residual value is pretty little. And there is still a market of these 10-year-old cars because they move from the metro city like a Delhi to nearby cities where it's allowed. It moves to parts of Haryana, Punjab. You've got various areas where there is demand and there is legally allowed to drive those cars there. So there is always an inherent demand. So place like Delhi forms the hub and is actually the biggest market. We see almost 20% of our business of sale purchase from Delhi NCR. All these cars actually, we also run CarDekho Gadi stores where we buy car from consumers at the best price and in one visit. So these cars actually are sold by consumers to us at the stores, and then they move to smaller towns. So do not think that the residual value is zero of a car. The value of the car actually lies in some other city where somebody is going to buy. Regarding the financing norms, I do agree that used car loan penetration is the lowest in the country. Bike loans are almost 50% bikes are sold on loan. Almost 65-70% new cars are sold on loans. But only 15% cars are sold on finance, used cars basically. So that's where we are trying to solve the problem, frankly. There's a fundamental problem of, RC transfer, of, transferring from title from A person to B person. It takes 3 months, and banks don't want to expose themselves for those 3 months if the title doesn't get transferred. So we have basically formed an organized platform and a technology which helps used car buyers take loans through our platform. And we are expanding deeper into that. This ecosystem shift, we are hoping that as we keep on bringing these innovations, we should see at least a 30% penetration of finance. Interest rates are higher, but they're actually, depending on the profile, it's not as bad as we think. It can range anywhere from 11.5 to 18% depending on the profile of the consumer. The value that you save in the car itself while you actually buy a used car is significantly more predominant than comparing it to the interest rates. So people actually buy the next level car while buying a used car, and the value that they save there, because typically a 3-year-old car would have already broken down by 40%, 45%. The value that you save there is significant enough to be not compared to the financial interest thing. But I do think that there is a need to have an online RTO process which will make the used car loans easier, and I think government should definitely do something about getting these RTOs online and make RC transfers hassle-free in a click.
All right. Let's talk about, as per some reports, 45% of buyers want a car that's 4 to 5 years old, but 46% of sellers want to sell their vehicle when it's about 6 to 8 years old. So how does this play into the demand-supply scenario?
So there's always a mismatch on demand and supply, and that determines the pricing of the product. And that is basically where the pricing of the product is determined. So you will see various brands or models trading at a different price point because each one holds a particular vehicle. So it's not a generic statement I would say it's model wise. So a Swift may have a different aging at which it sells, and say a Hyundai i10 or i20 may have a different aging. We see all sort of data patterns, and I personally have seen that the pricing of the product is actually determined by this in fundamental demand and supply that gets created on the platforms. We are also seeing with the new age technology coming in, the shift is happening where at least a 15-20% new car buyers are buying their car early because the new cars that have come in have actually got a great technology laden platform, and the ones that are on waiting, as you know, these are great cars that have come quite value for money. So a lot of shift is happening where people are selling their cars earlier. A lot of cars actually get sold on exchange on the new car counters, right? So there is a fundamental demand-supply gap which determines pricing, but that also gets sorted out as the price goes up. You are more inclined to sell it earlier and buy the next vehicle. So that kind of auto-adjusts, in my opinion, in the market.
Really appreciate your time. I'm so glad we had a chat about what's happening to the second-hand car market, and certainly look forward to much more engagements with you. 400 points up on the Sensex, guys. I mean, this is turning out to be such a dream patch for Indian markets. Coronavirus, nothing from the budget, earnings season is behind us, and yet markets are completely moving on a different orbit.